Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of Aspect of the Week. I'm Kelly from Kelly's Astrology. I offer astrology classes, training courses, and a monthly astrology guide membership subscription. Today, you're going to get a little bit of a taste of the kind of content that I share in the monthly astrology guide subscription. I talk about every aspect that's happening each day, each week, and each month. And in this video, which I'm sharing publicly, I'm going to tell you a little bit about one of the exciting aspects that I'm looking forward to this week. This video is for the week starting Monday, April 19th. And the aspect that I've chosen to focus on is Venus conjunct Uranus, which is happening at 10 degrees of Taurus, Thursday, Friday, depending on exactly where you are. It'll be Thursday if you're in Canada and the US. It'll be very late Thursday night, very early Friday morning if you're in Europe. And it will be more of a reasonable time on Friday morning, heading into the middle of the day if you're in Australia. So just depending on whereabouts you are, most of us are going to feel this energy probably for about 24 hours before it starts. So definitely Thursday, Friday, and for some of us a little bit on Wednesday as well. So Venus will be conjunct Uranus at 10 degrees of Taurus. Now, keeping in mind that Taurus is one of Venus's home signs, she has a lot of dignity or a lot of vitality, maybe some extra strength or talent to share as she's moving through Taurus. So this aspect is full of energy. It's full of excitement. Uranus has a stimulating quality. And I know the sign of Taurus is not necessarily known for its lively, fast-paced way of operating. Taurus is a fixed earth sign and definitely more methodical and measured. But there's a quality of quickening or stimulation, the idea of a desire or an interest being aroused and activated as Venus conjuncts Uranus. So it's a little bit of one of those aspects that there's a little bit of symbolic tension, if you like, between the qualities of the sign of Taurus and the nature of the planet Uranus. So rumbles of change or ripples that are like breakthroughs or sort of this bursting through or bursting out is definitely a quality that we might experience as Venus conjuncts Uranus. Now, keep in mind, Venus will be meeting Uranus once a year over about an 8-year period while Uranus moves through the sign of Taurus. So we're kind of only 1/3, we've still got more than 4 years of Venus meeting Uranus in Taurus ahead of us, or about 4 years, I should say. So this is not the first time we've had Venus conjunct Uranus in Taurus, and it won't be the last time. It might be the only time that the conjunction's happening exactly at 10 degrees Taurus. So if you have planets around 10 degrees of any of the fixed signs in the zodiac, that would be Taurus, but also Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, you might be a little bit more sensitive to this. But for most of us, it's really going to be about checking in with the topics of the Taurus house, the Taurus part of our chart, and thinking about what kind of breakthroughs or innovation we're ready to make, because that's the part of the longer trend of Uranus in Taurus. But this specific aspect this week is about connecting with people that might help you with those innovations or those changes, or those breakthroughs that you're looking to make. There's a quality of freshness and novelty to this Venus-Uranus aspect. And we know that Venus in astrology has these connections to relationships or interpersonal dynamics. And we often think about this in a romantic relationship sense, but it does apply to all kinds of relationships, family relationships, friendships, professional interactions, as well as our romantic relationships. So with Venus conjunct Uranus, if we think about this aspect from that more personal perspective, it's definitely a no-brainer that we want to maybe shake up our routines. We want to do things differently. We might be restless with routine or responsibility. We might be bored with the status quo. And Venus-Uranus is a little bit of a daring energy that kind of prods you or encourages you or kind of pokes you to make you kind of just get outside of the habits that you fall back into all the time. So there's two ways you can think about this. If you absolutely love the way your interactions with every person that's in your life are, then yes, you might find this a little bit disruptive because Uranus tends to change the status quo. And if we're really comfortable with the status quo, that can feel initially disruptive. Uranus usually has a purpose though, and the sort of slightly longer soundbite that I like to use for Uranus is change that leads to freedom. And by freedom, I think what we really mean is autonomy or independence. So change that leads to maybe more authenticity in your experiences in life in general, but also your encounters with other people. So if you're not totally happy with all of your interactions with every person in your life, this Venus-Uranus aspect could be looked at as an opportunity to approach a person or a partnership in a different way, to say something that you might not normally say, or to maybe bite your tongue because you normally say too much, perhaps. Just depends on, your personal personality, your unique personality, and how you typically operate when you interact with others. Maybe you can be very outspoken with people at work, but you struggle to be outspoken with someone in your personal life. So thinking about like the 180 or flipping things around. Well, I never do this here, so I'm going to try that and just see what happens. With Uranus, we talk about it being an experimental energy. And often when I say that, clients and students sort of think, well, I'm not really into science. I don't quite get what experimenting has to do. But really, it just means trying something that you haven't tried before or doing something differently from what you normally do. It may or may not work out, but at least you'll have shifted the energy so that stuck in a rut pattern is not continually being repeated or reinforced. So pattern breaking or changing your habits, I think, is a great possibility to come out of this Venus conjunct Uranus aspect. Now, Venus is very much about pleasure. And I mean that in the full broad sense of the word. What do you enjoy? What do you relish in? What do you revel in? What satisfies you or satiates all your various appetites? What are you doing when you feel like you've totally lost track of time? These are some of the things that the Venus-Uranus aspect might be inviting you to reconnect with. So if you've got neglected pleasures or you have ignored your desires, Venus-Uranus can bring them rearing back in a fast-paced, kind of in-your-face, out-of-the-blue way. Maybe you're kind of bored with the things that you do for fun or pleasure or relaxation. And part of the experimenting is you have to try something new or different. So these are some of the different ways Venus-Uranus can operate. Venus is a planet associated with feminine styles of experience, and sometimes to speak a little bit more to women as a grouping or collectively, to women in society, if you like, and people who identify as a woman. And with Venus conjunct Uranus, I do think we're seeing a next installment, or like this is the next chapter on a longer story about independence, autonomy, freedom, and kind of freedom of choice for women in society. And so we might see that in a big way. We might see that in a small way. And in terms of the day-to-day experience of your life, I think owning the feminine parts of you and advocating on behalf of women in society, or women in your family, or women in your organization at work, or women in your community, for instance, that may be something to think about with this very strong sort of feminine signature coming through. Venus-Uranus is definitely about diversity. It's about the diversity of the feminine experience, or the diversity in the many types of women's experiences in the world today. And so not trying to pigeonhole people, but to create that sense of choice, because that's something that's incredibly empowering and incredibly affirming to give people choices. And so I think something about that sort of feminine choice, innovation, breakthrough, needing to maybe upend things that don't allow for choice for women, if you like. There's a lot that could go into that. You can imagine that I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg here, but hopefully it gets you thinking about some of those topics a little bit more differently. I can't mention this Venus conjunct Uranus aspect without also briefly mentioning the longer aspect of Saturn square Uranus, which is such a signature for this year, for 2021. Saturn square Uranus is our biggest, most dynamic or most bold astrological signature for the year. And it has a lot to do with innovation, change, disruption, upheaval in entrenched structures or systems or power centers within societies. And with Venus conjunct Uranus, she is going to aspect Saturn a few days later. And I do talk about that in the monthly astrology guide subscription. So if you need more on this piece, definitely check out the subscription for April. What I want to say here, though, is that the Venus-Uranus aspect is kind of not happening in isolation. This year, 2021, this Venus-Uranus aspect is happening as Uranus is interacting with Saturn. Now, in mythology, one of the best figures to look to understand the planet Uranus in astrology is actually a character known as Prometheus. And if you want to read more about this, I highly recommend a slim publication called Prometheus the Awakener by Richard Taurus. And it looks a lot about how the elements of the Prometheus myth are so relevant for how we use Uranus in astrology. And one thing that's always struck me about Prometheus in mythology is that Prometheus was the one who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. Now, fire in a mythological context is not necessarily literal fire. It's more likely to be symbolic of wisdom or enlightenment. If we steal fire from the heavens, we've captured a sense of a divine awareness or a more wise perspective. We've gained some sort of special knowledge or intellectual power or understanding of things, and we're dispersing that to the masses. When you take something from the gods and you give it to the humans, you take it from a select few and you disperse it to a larger crowd. And so there is something in this Venus-Uranus aspect about activating that archetype of Prometheus in all of us. How do you want to take something that is special or normally only available to certain people in certain situations and make it more widely available? So there's a lot of deep mythological story that you could get into here. And I know this is intended to be a short video, so I didn't want to get too sidetracked with that, but at least to plant that seed, just to light that tiny spark of curiosity inside you so that you could take that further in your own understanding. But be ready for a few surprises. Be spontaneous with your affection. Be generous in terms of encouraging yourself and others to be authentic, and maybe be a little bit flexible when things don't go according to plan, but recognizing that sometimes not going according to plan is how we create progress and we change things for the better, if you like. So I'm curious to hear how this Venus conjunct Uranus aspect might be showing up for you. It is happening at 10 degrees on Taurus, at 10 degrees in Taurus on Thursday or Friday. So April 22nd or April 23rd, just depending on whereabouts you are in the world. So definitely let me know how you experience this via the comments below. And if you do want more info about the other aspects happening this week, we've got other planets connecting with Uranus, and of course, we've got Mars changing signs. Pop on over to my website, kellysastrology.com, where you can sign up for my monthly astrology guide subscription. I'll be back with more aspect of the week videos for you again soon. Until then, team, take care.